The Tier 6 American battleship, the New Mexico, is a combination of extremes. Although she is not the fastest in a race, her 16-second rudder shift time is almost unheard of for a ship of her size. This rudder shift time is almost 26% faster than her Japanese rival, the Fuso. Combine this with her great turning radius, and the New Mexico is an amazingly agile battleship.
Team has taken the lead.
The Fuso outclasses the New Mexico in reload time, weapon range, and total health. However, the triple-barreled turrets of the New Mexico are very accurate, and she has a slight edge over the Fuso in armor-piercing damage. Watching the enemy battleship slowly head into my gun range, I fire and deal critical damage to one of the enemy's gun turrets.
Our team has taken the lead.
Cutting between two islands, I fire again, turning into the oncoming shells. I put out the fires on the ship and head towards the enemy, reducing my profile while shooting the enemy cruiser and resetting the cap. We both turn to fire at each other, and his first salvo flies harmlessly into the sea. His second shot set the New Mexico on fire, and I have almost 2 minutes until my repair teams will be available again. The cruiser disappears behind the island as I finish reloading. The New Mexico turns, and I briefly consider shooting at the distant targets. Then I see the cruiser rapidly closing the distance. Still burning, the New Mexico and the cruiser exchange salvos, the accuracy of her weapons resetting the cap and devastating the enemy target.
Target penetrated.
Still unable to stop the fires and starting to take noticeable damage, I use my damage control ability to mitigate the fire's relentless damage. The enemy cruiser turns away while still firing, trying to get away from the New Mexico. Seeing the rest of my team firing him, I change targets, trying to put my big guns to best use. Noticing incoming shells, the New Mexico bites into the sea, pulls her nose around, and is able to avoid most of the incoming shells. Taking aim, the enemy cruiser appears to be barely moving. It's only after I fire I notice that he or she is actually stationary, causing my shots to fall short. Turning to avoid the incoming fire, the New Mexico straightens out and fires a full sequential broadside, each shot slightly closer to the bow of the enemy ship. The shells then smash down upon the enemy vessel, fragments exploding into the air.
Enemy cruiser foundered.
Continuing to head straight at the enemy fleet, the New Mexico takes a few hits from an enemy battleship, further damaging her. Given 2 targets, I choose to fire at the enemy carrier. Underestimating the lead necessary, the shots fall short. I use my damage repair ability and the crew jumps into action to undo recent damage. Noticing the battleship is barely moving, the New Mexico takes aim at the wounded target. Her weapons sing out as the enemy shells come crashing in and both ships take heavy damage. Just as she begins to slow, shells tear across the deck, plowing into her armor, causing no real damage. Surrounded by multiple enemies, I do a quick look around to decide my next move. Another big hit to the back of the ship decides for me, and the New Mexico swings angrily to face her assaulters. Incoming fire begins to cascade around the ship as she slows and takes aim at the enemy battleship. She takes a hit and one of her main turrets is damaged, but the crew is able to repair and salvage it. Still surrounded and heavily damaged with both repair abilities on cooldown, the New Mexico turns wildly, attempting to reduce the incoming damage. With only 2 of her 4 turrets aiming at the target, she fires anyway, and the enemy shells come shattering against her armor. The shells she fired penetrate the soft armor of the cruiser and absolutely cripple him or her.
Bullseye!
The game ends due to our dominance of the control points. Earning a Dreadnought medal and first place for experience on my team was a nice reward after such an intense battle. Thanks for watching, and if you liked what you saw, please click subscribe below.